Good evening. Thank you for sticking around. Can we give the filmmakers one more round of applause, please? My name's Simon Taufique. I'm a New York-based producer with the Producer Guild East, and I'm happy to introduce the lead, the producer and writer, Devika Bhise. So thanks for joining us, Devika. How did you come to this project and this story?
Ooh, so many years ago, I was cast in a version of this story, which was going to be based out of India. So it was going to be a Bollywood film in two Indian dialects. And a number of things happened with that project, including that they never had a script. And as projects do, it crumbled and fell apart, and I was so excited I was gonna play the Rani of Jhansi, and then I wasn't, right? Which happens more often than you think. And so while I was learning about the role and the character, I was talking to my mom a lot, who is an Indian classical dancer, is a history major, and actually wrote her thesis about the Warrior Queen. So we were discussing the history and the costumes and the dialects and what her life was like and all of these intriguing thoughts. And the movie totally crumbled. I was very upset, but it's happened a number of times, as actors know.
You get used to it. Yeah.
As you get used to it. And my mother, who's a little nutty in the sense that she thinks, why not? We can do anything. Was like, well, why don't we write a script together about this story? I know the history entirely, and I brought the English American viewpoint of, not everyone knows what the East India Company is, and not everyone knows who she is, and the history of that time. So we wrote it together, and I thought it was going to be a pet project that we were going to do, like a cute mother-daughter thing. And one thing led to another, and we started reaching out to actors and producers and every single crew person, raising money as well. And sooner or later, it was happening. And the only thing we needed was a director. So we talked to the people, we've raised money with the crew, the hair and makeup, costumes, everyone who's now on board. And they all say, listen, I am on this because of you guys. And to my mom, they said, if you don't direct this film, we're not doing it. So we kind of looked at each other and were like, oh, this is an interesting choice, because we have to work in this intimate, close space as actor and director, mother and daughter, and this will either go really well or completely blow up in everyone's face, and we'll never talk to each other ever again, and it would be horrible.
So that assumes the writing went smoothly.
The writing did go smoothly. The writing went smoothly because her sense was very historical, and it had to be exactly accurate as to what happened, and then I was able to add some little flourishes of comedy or something here and there. But I also tried to add other stuff. I was like, what if the Rani had a scene with Rupert Everett where she is trying to negotiate and blah, 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 blah. And my mother would be like, that never happened. Like, she never met Rose. And I was like, but I want to do a scene with Rupert Everett.
Why not?
So I lost that battle. But otherwise, it was fine. It was fine because we really hashed out every scene, every dialogue. And at the end, we agreed on what we actually needed from that. So we would all, there would be weeks of me being like, what about this? What about this? And she said, no, no, no. And then finally, we would come to some kind of understanding of what that dialogue was meant to be.
Daughters have that ability with their moms. They can convince and negotiate, and good producers as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, did you have Rupert Everett and your other amazing cast members in mind as you were writing it?
We had a few people in mind. Rupert was definitely on the top of the list. He had that look, and my mom has watched all of his movies from, as have I, of course. But we really had people in mind, and Derek Jacobi, I think, was the only person that we wanted for that role as well, for Palmerston.
Well, they're incredible anchors in the cast for a villain type of group of people. The villains, you've picked the most sympathetic villains you possibly could.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and how difficult was it assembling such an amazing cast?
It wasn't as difficult as I thought, and I wasn't the main person who was doing that. My mom was, very much so. And she was just reaching out to agents and reaching out to casting directors. John and Roz Hubbard, who did our casting, did Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all these big movies. And she was like, I'm just gonna email them and see what happens. And I was like, that's crazy. They're not gonna respond. And they did. So I was the one constantly pulling us back, I think, to be honest with myself, because I know how it works. I've been in movies, I've been in this line of work. I understand how crazy it is to be able to do something like this. And I think she didn't have that understanding. She was like, what, you want to cast a movie? Call a casting director. You want an actor? Like, call the actor's assistant and just like ask him to be in your movie. What's the problem?
So I'm guessing she's working with Steven Spielberg next then.
Well, I mean, probably. And she's never directed prior to this. She's an Indian classical dancer and produces theater a lot. And she was like, what, like it's hard? I mean, just do it.
How many directors do we have in the room? First-time directors?
It's hard. But now she actually says it's hard. Now she looks back and is like, oh, yes, that was an insane journey that we went on. But at the time, she was like, it's a movie. Let's just make a movie. We'll shoot. Wazazat, India, England, it's fine. It's going to be fine.
We all need that kind of bravery. Wow,
yes.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you wore so many hats on this film, and I know a lot of actors refuse to watch their work after it's done. They're too close to it. Now, you were in the post-production, you were in the editing. How did you do that? How were you able to withstand seeing yourself in scenes that you may have thought, I wish I had done better there or whatever? How did you deal with all of that?
I get used to it. I think you're watching it over and over again. And I was thinking about the storyline a lot, but there were moments, there's the scene when my horse dies, and it was so cold that day. It was like, it was really freezing. And so I've all of the takes, I just have snot pouring out of my nose. It's just like, and I'm just like sobbing, and it's just like snot. And I told our editor, Oral, who edited Game of Thrones, among many other things.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I've ever heard of it. Yeah, so I was like, can we find any other shot of me? First of all, it's like the camera's like up on me, and it's like snot falling out. And he was like, absolutely not. Like that, like it's a really powerful moment, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, fine. But are you sure? Because any other take, but that kind of thing, I kind of trusted the people around me.
Yeah, that takes a lot of trust. Wow,
yeah.
A snot take, that's as hard as they get. Yeah. Wow. I'm very impressed.
Thanks.
Well, we've got a bunch of really cool questions from the audience, and we'll turn over to some of these. And being that this is a SAG audience, we have some multi-part questions, so I hope you're ready for that.
Yes.
Okay, so what was the most challenging aspect of learning the multiple skills needed to play this role?
So there were two parts that were very hard about this character. There was a lot of things that were very hard about playing this role. One was being the lead, which means that we were working 18 hours often every day, like 12 hours a day.
Yeah, edit that part out, please.
No, we were working long, long days, and I was in pretty much every single scene, right? And so I had to know all of my lines prior to day one. It wasn't the kind of thing where you're like learning them as you go because you don't have any time. You're either sleeping or on set.
And you co-wrote the script, so of course, you didn't have an excuse for not.
But the Indian lines, I didn't know. So I would write the English lines, and then they would get translated into the two Indian dialects that we used. Those two dialects are ones that I know well-ish, but to act in those languages it was a completely different beast entirely. So I, for years, was learning just those lines to become really, really fluent in those parts, because India is a really big place. There are a lot of people there, and the one thing that I knew would happen is if there was a single line out of, an accent or anything like that, people would eviscerate me. And by the way, with the trailer out, we now have like 8 million views on YouTube, which is great. It's very exciting.
Yeah, give it up.
But which means that there's a lot of positive commentary that's coming from that, and then some negative commentary. And I haven't been in a movie yet where I'm the lead in that sense, that face. And so I've been, it's kind of coming directly at me. So one of the things that's being said a lot is it's like whitewashing Indian history, right? And it's like, I'm not white. I'm not white. By the way, I'm not white. And they're like, yes, but the actress is not brown enough. She has this like light brown skin, and so like she's not even Indian. And so that's the thing that comes up a lot. Like, you're not Indian enough to play the Indian parts, and you're not white enough to play any of the white parts. That's for sure. So that's been
that's
kind
a challenge.
of difficult.
Yeah, it's a unique challenge.
Yeah.
Where we are now with inclusive casting and people really embracing diverse stories. The other piece that you just talked about, which is the negative social media hits. How are you dealing with that? Because that is a new phenomenon where you get out there, and if people don't like your stuff for whatever reason, everyone's got different tastes. You don't hear about it except for the reviews, and now you do.
Right.
So how do you cope with that?
So there are a lot of trolls, like really, really trolls, because they haven't even watched it, and they're just writing stuff on the trailer. And a lot, and some of them are so outrageous that you have to laugh. You just have to laugh at someone like that. And there's a lot of commentary of like, women should be in the kitchen, like why? Or, like England just won, like she died, so she actually didn't accomplish anything, like ha ha ha. There's a movie about this woman who failed, and so like we're all supposed to be happy about that.
So just haters.
So right. And it's been a long process, obviously. We started to write the script maybe 4 years ago. And turns out it's really hard to make a movie. And have, being on the other side of it, I don't even care, because I'm just so proud that we were able to do this. And if people want to say bad things about it, that's their prerogative. But I'm really proud that we were able to pull this off. So
it's an incredible achievement.
Thanks. Thank you.
And tell your mom we're clapping for her too.
I know, I will. She almost died during the process. The last 2 days in Ouazzazate, she was airlifted out. She had ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, which was like pneumonia that turned into like bronchitis, pneumonia, ARDS. She was in the ICU at Langan on life support for weeks, and then in the hospital for months after that. So I had to direct the last 2 days in Ouazzazate of the action sequences. Because I wrote it with her, so I knew we had really talked about and hashed out every single part of it at that point. She's completely fine now. She's made a full recovery. Yeah. but a lot of blood, sweat, and tears literally have gone into this. And working with her on set was actually completely fine because we had worked so hard up to that moment where we knew what every scene was about. We knew the arc of every scene. We knew what the character needed out of that. We knew what that moment was in the movie and what needed to come across. And so then when you're on a movie set, you're also putting out a lot of fires in a lot of different places. Right. Whether it was me with my acting and trying to figure out how I was going to do the horseback riding and the sword fighting or the dialects, and with her dealing with locations. 2 days before we were supposed to go to England to shoot in Hatfield House, we get a call from the location saying, we are so sorry. We have to be there in 2 days. We're so sorry. We cannot give you this location anymore. Ridley Scott is shooting for some reason, reshooting a lot of scenes from his movie, taking out Kevin Spacey and putting in Christopher Plummer for that week. And it's Ridley Scott, so we said yes, and you don't have a location, and we're sorry. And I don't know, goodbye.
So what'd you do?
So we got another one. You just call other locations and find another.
Make a way. You find a way.
Yeah, and so we found a great spot. So we got lucky, but things just happen.
It sounds like there's a movie in the making of the movie.
Yes, there is.
A mother and daughter come up with a script. They make the movie. The mother survives. The daughter takes over the reins.
Yeah.
And then how did the mother like what you shot? Did she give you tips? Did she?
She liked it. I mean, she is also very on top of everything, and so I didn't shoot anything that we had not really hashed out and talked about. So it was all within her creative space, and
and we won't tell the doctors. Yeah. But was she watching dailies from the hospital room?
Yes. She was watching dailies from the hospital room. She was editing on like morphine and codeine. So I was
that's true for most editors. So at least the ones that I've met. So.
Yeah, but we also had issues because for all the horse riding, I had trained for years to do this, right? And I was cantering, and I was doing jumps, and I was riding with 2 swords in each hand with like the reins in my teeth. I was like, I can do anything, yes. We get onto set, and the producers are like, insurance says that you can't do any of these things. You can walk, and you can trot. That is it. And I was like, I can't canter, I can't, that's like this gait, right? It's the more like gallopy, like a slow gallop. They were like, no, absolutely not. It's completely against the rules. It's against our policy. And I just did it anyway. And I got in a lot of trouble on a number of occasions. Because it looks stupid to trot, to do a seated trot.
I was going to ask about the trotting.
I didn't trot. I didn't do it.
Well, I was going to ask about the lack of trotting.
The lack of trotting.
Because of the insurance.
Right. So I don't know. Things like that came up, and I would canter through a scene, and I was like, I'm so sorry. It's a horse. Like, I don't know how to ride a horse. Like, it's my fault. And my mom would just like stand behind because she like knew that I kicked the horse, and was just like, I'm not commenting on this. This actress has gone rogue. I don't know.
Now, how much of this is just, we're from America, we don't know how things go here, and just getting away with stuff?
Yeah, a little bit of that. But we had to be very Indian as well. In India, you can't just go to India with a camera crew and just hope, Right. There's a lot of politics that goes into that.
And I'm anticipating one of these questions, which is, tell us about the differences between shooting here and in India.
Well, for one, it was really hot in India, but that happens here as well. It was a much, it's a gorgeous place, obviously, and we shot in a lot of historic places. So we shot in Jagar Fort, which is, you know, thousands and thousands of years old. And so being there and seeing that history around you and imbibing that, and the speech that I give at that like nighttime speech on the ramparts, it's in the real place, and you're looking around just at this like vast landscape and this stone that has history and has seen a lot of things, you know, and it brings it all up into you. And so for me, it was a lot easier to be in those kinds of places. Wazazat, we actually used Ridley Scott, speaking of Ridley Scott, Ridley Scott's set for Kingdom of Heaven.
Right.
And that was a real fort that he just made, and I think it would have cost $2 million to tear it down. So it's just there now. But it's made of like cardboard, kind of, you know? So you're like running around doing all these scenes, and the floor is bouncing under you, and you're like, ah.
So potentially another insurance issue, which we won't talk about.
Right. None of the insurance issues. Yeah, so that was a totally different experience as well. But we were in Ridley Scott's fort. I mean, that was so cool.
Amazing.
To be able to do that.
Wow. So location, that was a big deal. The history of the setting, the history of the event. Now you've got some actors in your film who have great history in what they've done. How much acting secrets or tips or what was it like working with them as an actor?
It was every actor on this project was wonderful and very kind. In, you know, I think everyone, we did not have a large budget for what we had to do, and so whether it was the actors slashing their fees to do it because they cared about the script and the project and the story, or whether it was the costumes or jewelry that we all rented gratis completely.
Wow.
And we used real jewels. So like I have real emeralds in my turban, you know, antique real jewelry that I was then riding and galloping into horseback. And I had these guys, you know, watching me at all times in case any of these rubies would get stolen or something.
Oops.
Oops, yeah, exactly. But that also meant that I was riding into battle, you know, making sure, praying that my, you know, jewelry wouldn't fall off somewhere. But it was all real, which was pretty incredible. And having that weight of something so expensive and so valuable actually on you gave me a really good sense of being a queen. And you're actually wearing these real diamonds and pearls and, you know, jewels, and you can't lose them. That's the hardest part about being a queen, not losing the jewelry.
That's a good
That's
tip.
the takeaway.
Okay, next question. Did you perform a lot of your own stunts? So somebody anticipated the insurance question. Yeah. How was your training, and who are your stunt doubles? Were there stunt doubles?
There was one, yes. Laura Vau, she is German, was my stunt double, which is also why a lot of the shots didn't work, because she was white. She was white. But she was integral to this project because she trained all of the horses in India who are not trained to be ridden in that way.
Right.
So I practiced with her, even learning how to train a horse, you know, like running them around the ring.
Right.
There's in the montage of the like training sequence early in the film, there's a shot of me training a horse going around that ring and then having the horse come directly to me by just calling him. And that is just something I learned on set with her. And then finally we were doing it, and my mom saw it, and I was like, shoot this, like put this in the film. This is great.
Shoot the rehearsal.
Exactly. So she was, you know, incredible. And she did some of the stunts. I think there's one of the last wide shots that she's in as well. So she was really, really helpful. But I wanted to do all my stunts. And even if that meant being terrified. There's that scene where I'm jumping off the rampart onto the horse. And that was the day that my mom was very ill and I was directing, and I was like, oh, we have to do 28 scenes in 12 hours. Like, what is happening to the schedule? And so they had to rig me up with the bungee thing, and you have to get into it, and then you have to wear the sari on top of it. It takes a long time. And they were like, do you want to do this jump? Or Laura can do it, it's whatever. I was like, oh, I'm easy, whatever. I just jump off that, it's fine. I get to the top of it, and looking down, it looks way more of a jump. And I thought it was like, I can't jump off this. I don't skydive, I don't do any of that stuff. And I realized that it would take an hour and a half to take off my sari, take off my harness, put it on her, put her on the sari.
That's the producer talking to you.
And I was like, and it's like, whatever, it's so expensive. Making a movie is so expensive also. And it's like, we don't have the time or money for me to not do this right now. And also immediately, and we're very behind schedule still. So I had to just do it, right? But knowing that, I think made it a lot easier for me to get through some really, really hard aspects of this film.
So that's a really hard-driving producer working your lead actress.
Right.
Wow, my God.
Yeah.
So now after this, I mean, you've done so much to make this film, and it's got a great distributor behind it. What's next?
I don't know yet. I'm looking at a few projects. I'm writing my own as well, that has to do with an Indian American girl growing up in Manhattan.
Is your mom hurt that she's not co-writing this? Or?
No, she's not heard that yet. No, but actually, I'm not sure. We haven't talked about if we're gonna collaborate. I'm so thrilled that we got through this whole experience alive in one piece, and we still have a great relationship. Like,
I think we all are really relieved for both of you.
Yeah, so maybe we will do another one in the future, but it's not. There's no plan yet.
Wow, well, I think we'd all love to see that.
Yeah.
Congratulations on this amazing achievement.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.